Watching that movie gave me a sensation I don't think I have ever had before. Is that this is just incredibly beautiful, and I want it to stop because it's.
Yeah, well, that's probably a good way to think about it, yeah. You wouldn't want to be up there for too long.
Yeah.
All good things must come to an end.
But what a fascinating combination of emotions, because it's aesthetically so ravishing. At the same time, it is so dangerous. So it's not a combination one comes across very often. I think maybe some horror films, but it's a different effect from.
Yeah, it was. It was always something that I couldn't put my finger on either. I knew it was something that needed to be done on film, and that film could really capture it in a way that couldn't be done in any other medium that I could think of. Being able to actually be in the place where Philippe was, to see it from completely his point of view, which is generally what I tried to do with that sequence, is to do as much of it from his point of view, even though the camera does a lot of sweeping things, but the tone of it and the emotion of it is from his point of view.
Right. It's another one of your solitary heroes, which seems to become a focus of yours since, I would say, Forrest Gump. And combined with the flying theme that is in so much of your work. And we all know that you are a private pilot on your own. Is that something that preceded your interest in this artistically, or has shaped it?
No, I didn't start flying until after I made Contact. So I don't know how that fits into the psyche of what my films are. So have they changed since then, except for the fact there are 2 plane crashes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's the tension in your work, is between the floating feather and the crashing plane, I think. And
It could be, obviously none of this is done consciously.
of course.
It's just I read the screenplay and or I come up with an idea to write a screenplay. It's either one or the other. I seem to be switching off, and I don't know why I do that. I think when I do that, making films that other screenwriters write, I do know helps my writing. Mm-hmm. That's one thing I know. But however I do it, I'm just interested, and it might have something to do with the solitary character. It's always the character that I'm interested in first and foremost.
Right.
It's always that. It's not like I'm ever going out saying, I want to do a musical next, or I want to do a war movie. It isn't. It's not that. Mm-hmm. It's always, what the story about a character would be, and then whatever that happens to be.
What caught your interest about this particular story? Was there a moment when you decided you had to make this film?
Well, it was the incredible passion of Philippe. When I came across his story, first of all, I couldn't believe it was real, and I didn't remember it happening when it really happened, because I was in film school and I was sort of cut off from the world, so I didn't. And I caught up with his story and read about him and read about got the old newspaper clippings of what happened, and read his book, and then had him come out to California, and we had a long dinner, and it was such an amazing story. But what really hooked me into this one was the passion that Philippe had. It's something that I guess I completely identify with. Mm-hmm. Not to the extreme, But you know, where something happens, when nothing, that sort of feeling that this creative expression, whatever it is, has to come out no matter what.
Right.
That's what I know. I know I identified with that in him.
Mm-hmm. And this is a project you've had for 10 years or so.
About 10 years, 9 or 10 years, yeah.
Was it a question of waiting for the technology to catch up with what you wanted to do, or
No.
marinating in some deeper level?
Well, no, but it worked out well that way. No, it was a hard movie to get made.
Uh-huh.
It was a hard movie to get made. It was, you know, it's hard. It's hard to get movies made that don't, I guess, the kind way to say it is fit into the box.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so it's tough nowadays when you've got a movie that's got different tone to it and sort of different style, and it's just hard.
Definitely.
But because it took so long, you know, the technology kept improving, and you know, so I've got to be very philosophical and think, well, it was made when it was supposed to be.
Right. So this has everything from motion capture to good old green screen to built
Yeah,
sets.
this has from a technical standpoint, I think that every movie that I've made has prepared me to make this movie technically. The only type of visual effect that's not in this movie is cartoon animation.
And that'll be in the sequel.
Couldn't think of any place to put it. No.
Were you? Did you build the 3D environments like you did with the motion capture films?
Yeah, this is all you know, all 3D virtual environments. Everything you see, you know, the towers, the you know, Lower Manhattan, all that is 3D, virtual 3D. And we call them assets, environments, whatever you want to call them.
And you're able to place your virtual camera anywhere within that.
No, we used a real camera, and we used a real camera. I mean, there is some performance capture. There is some performance capture, but you can't see, but there's something there. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, we had probably when Philippe is doing the walk, what is practical for most of the shots is about a 40 by 30 piece of set that was we built, was the roof of the tower. It was the south tower mostly, and then we turned all the cameras around and we redressed the set and made it into the north tower when we needed it, and then the wire and Philippe.
Right. It's a stunning effect, and you stop even thinking about it being a special effect. The minute he gets to the top of that building, it's just not a question of it being.
Right. Yeah, it's beautifully done. It's beautifully done, and it's a testament to the team, my team who did it, and my cameraman Darek Wolski and Kevin Bailey, my effects supervisor, and all the digital artists. They did a magnificent job.
Right.
Yeah, it's really great.
What's the biggest change you've seen in American filmmaking since you began? Would you say it was the transition to digital, or are there other?
Since I began, yeah, once things became digital, it changed everything really fast, and it's changing faster and faster, and I actually am very excited about it, because what it's becoming, being able to do visual effects quickly, and it's becoming less expensive, mm-hmm. because we're generating so much digital processing power that the visual effects and the machines and the computers that do it are getting so fast that You know, I go to the USC Film School, and there are guys there who are rendering complete virtual worlds on, you know, desktops that rival anything that's coming out of, that look exactly what is great as stuff that's coming out of the big, you know, effects houses. So what I think is great about this is that, you know, when visual effects are completely commonplace and they're in every single movie, and every filmmaker has the capability of doing it, and it's only limited by their own artistic ability, then I'm hoping it all comes back to the story.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it'll you know, the spectacle of movies will be everywhere.
Right. I mean, clearly the best special effects in the world mean nothing without that emotional charge.
I agree.
And I would say nothing without the eye of a filmmaker who is able to create that kind of suspense through montage, through framing. Just a wonderful example, when he first steps out onto the wire and the clouds drift away and you see the city under his feet, which is a magnificent reveal. And I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. But that is the cinema. That is not a special effect. That is a judgment in terms of timing and framing and where you're going to cut that. You're still using very long takes. You have a sense what your average shot length is in something like this? Compared to most contemporary films, I would say your takes are 2 or 3 times as long as
Yeah. Well, first I wanted to mention the thing about the, you know, that was inspired by Philippe, because he told me that before he stepped on the wire, he had the sensation that everything in the world vanished except for the wire. And I said, that's really great. You know, I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to do that? You know, I got to figure out a way to, because that just was an emotion that came from something that really happened to him. So I didn't want to just have the screen go white, which is probably what happened in his mind's eye. So Kevin came up with the idea of, well, why don't we have like just clouds come in? And I thought, well, if we can pull that off, that might be, my effects supervisor, Kevin, I said, let's try to do that. And so that's what ultimately happened. And the effect, I think, is extremely emotional. Worked really great. What was your second question? I forgot.
I forget too.
Oh, okay.
Hardly as interesting as the first one.
Long shots, right?
Long
Long takes. Yeah, you know, it was
you.
two reasons for that. One, it all, the camera. You know, I approached this as you know, I approached this as a ballet or a choreographed dance number. That's kind of how I approached it. Like it was and you know, I thought it was important that the camera sort of becomes a partner with Philippe on the wire. So the speed of the camera is first and foremost an extension of sort of the speed of the performance. But then it has another benefit, which is 3D, because what doesn't work in 3D is fast editing. Quick cutting doesn't work in 3D. I mean, it does, but the clever filmmaker, when there's a fast, he will just shut the 3D off. And you'll never, it won't matter because you don't have any time to process the 3D anyway. And then your brain's not trying to put the images together, so you don't get otherwise you'd get a headache.
Because you need the viewer to reconstruct that space.
Yeah, you have to reconstruct that space. So to slow everything down is crucial to effective 3D.
Yeah, beautiful. Should we open it up to the audience?
Please, absolutely.
Documentary. How many times did you see it?
I saw the documentary once. I think it's really great. Like I was saying, I started this project 10 years ago. So it was way before the documentary was made or finished. And the documentary is wonderful, but the thing that the documentary couldn't do is the actual walk itself, and that was the thing that I thought was ultimately the whole point of Philippe's artistic feat.
And there is no footage of it.
None
Only
at
a
all.
few.
No movie. That's a true moment that happens in the movie where the guys are loading the 16 millimeter camera. They brought a camera up to the North Tower, and just as they got it loaded, the cops showed up and they had to run away. So there was no motion picture film of the walk.
Amazing.
Hi, thank you for this, and thank you for the film. I'm a writer, so I have some writerly questions, and congrats on writing the screenplay. Can you walk us through your process of developing a character? Can you break down how Philippe intrigued you, and basically how you, in the writing process, broke it down?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
Do you mind just walking us through your process of developing your characters?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, characters are crucial, and they're what it's all about. I would say that the first thing that you want to do is define what it is that you want your movie to be about, and that becomes the premise of the movie. And then the pivotal character will be the one who proves your premise. And then, of course, all the other characters that would be in the story are there to serve that character. And anyway, that's the way I work. That's like just old-fashioned Laos Egri dramatic writing. But I think that's in Western storytelling, that's what works the best. And of course, then they get into a lot of nuance with that character as to, how gray is he in the beginning of the story, and how, is he gonna turn black? Is he gonna turn white? What's gonna happen? And that, of course, all depends on what the premise of your movie is all about.
I'm sorry about this. I want to state the obvious for anybody who saw The Wire. I really scratched my head at first. Why this movie?
What's that?
The documentary.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Your Man on the Wire. And I scratched my head about why this film. And so I wanted to say thank you, because art, as inspiration, it's not like just the walk at the end. It's not just the drama. It's really, for me, it's a wonderful expression about that, the dream and the action, and that it was real. And so I want to thank you, and maybe other people who saw the Man on the Wire too, that what you did was really wonderful.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank the gentleman sitting 2 rows in front of me for what you've done.
Take a bow, Philippe.
Philippe Petit.
There it is. Yep, the man whose dream started it all, right there.
Indeed.
This is the first movie I ever did about a real person.
Aha.
Did you know that?
No, I hadn't thought about that. So there
See?
you go. That's
See?
it.
No, that I thought you would have known.
Now you're schooling me. Okay, that's it.
Hi, I was wondering, so many films today are shot in 2D and actually converted to 3D. Considering that you were dealing with so much CGI and live action, can you speak to, was it all shot in 3D?
No, we never shot any native 3D. That's really old school. All that was shot with a single lens and all converted, because unless there's only one thing that you really need to pay attention to and possibly shoot with native 3D, and that's when you're photographing water. For some reason, water and smoke are very difficult to convert, and it's very expensive. So it might actually be cheaper to bring out those giant cameras and shoot native 3D. But yeah, but with conversion, it's great because you, depending on the shot and all the things we talked about, speed of the editing, speed of the camera, you can dial in your convergence and you have control over it. And when you're shooting native, it is what it is. But when you are converting, it's, you know, the computers are so powerful now and it's so, you know, technically advanced that you can say, yeah, you know, that shot needs to be a little less, you know, in your face, and you can, like, you know, tone it down. So you have a lot more control when you do a conversion.
Hello, thank you, hi. I enjoyed the film very much, and what I thought was really interesting is, I know he lives, he's here tonight. You know, I know that it's animated, I know that it's a film, and yet I'm having so many autonomic responses to it. My hands are actually sweating, aside from just, you know, flinching when it comes at me. This particularly seems to be a sustained psychological experience, and I was wondering if you consulted with or had any collaboration with psychologists or physiologists to help create that experience, because more so than even a horror movie, like this one's like a happy ending, and yet I'm still like freaking out.
Right. No, we didn't. Although we did spend a lot of time really working hard on, you know, inducing vertigo. We really, I mean, I guess if that's a psychological thing, then we worked really hard. Myself and my cameraman and my visual effects supervisor, we really worked hard to say, okay, what is it that really causes vertigo? You know, speed of the camera moving, lenses, different things, you know, so we thought about it long and hard.
And you do give us the experience of falling in that
one shot.
one shot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just, you know, it could have been subconscious, you know, but you know, my intent there is that I wanted in at least one shot to tie Philippe and the people on the street together, because I just felt it was necessary to do it once, because it's, without doing a shot like that, there's no other way to do it. You have to do it via editing.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Mr. Zemeckis, I'm old enough also to remember this when it actually happened, and I was in fact just an exchange student coming back from Sweden to the U.S. In that summertime, and I guess what I'm wondering is, you know, the political context, and of course you had a couple of headlines showing what was going on with Nixon and everything, but to me it was really amazing. I mean, the way you know, you had the focus on the solitary hero, but also he was kind of like a modern day de Tocqueville, reminding America what was possible and about this place and about this country, about New York. Now I think the film has a certain poignance, obviously, shown here in New York, and what that time and those towers symbolized. And I wonder, you know, if you'd comment on that.
Yeah, you know, you're right. I mean, that's one of the things that's one really wonderful thing that you can do that movies can do great, and that is when they do, you know, when they do something historical, they do a period movie, because what you get to do as the writer and the filmmaker is you get to look at a time through the lens of history, and you can kind of then you kind of know what was important then, because, you know, time had passed. Like, we don't really know, like, what's important right now. I mean, you know, if we were making a contemporary movie, you don't know what's going to resonate and what isn't going to resonate. History allows you to know that. So you know, so when filmmakers do it in the best circumstances, what they're able to do is they're able to have it resonate to what's happening possibly now. And, you know, and that's very poignant in this story, because, you know, things have changed so dramatically. The most obvious is the fact that, you know, the Twin Towers were destroyed. That is, you know, that creates its own sort of emotional power just in that. But yeah, it's something that, you know, I enjoy, you know, being able to have that ability to go back and look at history and say, okay, what do you think is really the one thing I do find interesting is I don't see guys doing this kind of thing anymore. You know, we don't have anarchistic subversive artists who are doing benevolent works. It doesn't seem like, which is interesting for for wherever our psyche is now at this point in time. He's like the only one. Yeah, he's like I was going to mention him. He is
Banksy.
Banksy. Yeah, he's the one. He is. You're right.
And who works rather like Philippe and the
exactly.
the gang. Yeah.
Okay, last question.
I was wondering if you could speak to the architectural element of the movie and the recreation of old New York, what that process was.
I'm sorry, what is
the recreation of old New York obviously through CGI, but you were going through and recreating the old city.
Yep. Well, we obviously we did it. It was very painstaking and very arduous and a lot of work. And you know, the visual effects team poured over, and the art department poured over, you know, thousands of photographs. And you know the one great thing about New York is it's photographed quite a bit. And the other thing is that the towers were photographed a lot. And so, you know, there was massive amounts of material and research, and you know, the team got everything they could get their hands on, including, you know, the architectural drawings and working drawings of the towers, and then they, you know, and movie footage of New York, you know, from old movies, and just, you know, helicopter shots of what was going on, and then take that and then, you know, as I said earlier, just start digitally painting a three-dimensional virtual city, which is what we did, and then always going back and making sure, was that building there or was that building not there, you know, and everybody just cross-referencing that, and especially the towers, because just one aside is that, you know, when we first saw the images of what it looked like looking, you know, in the final paintings, looking down from the towers, it was a little disheartening because it was mostly landfill, you know, and, you know, it was like, oh boy, but that's what was really there, so we went for it, you know. It worked great, but we wanted it to be accurate.
I'm afraid we've got to end it there, but
Thank you.
Thank
you all.
Robert Zemeckis.
Thank you. David, thank you. Appreciate it.